Here are the headlines for Saturday morning, August 17, 2024. Aging is not a gradual process but accelerates at two main stages. Research by Stanford Medicine has revealed that aging is not a gradual process, but rather occurs in surges during specific periods of life, particularly in our 40s and 60s. The study analyzed biomarkers from over 5,000 samples from 108 participants, spanning more than 2 decades, and found significant nonlinear changes in approximately 81% of the molecules. Two critical periods of transformation were identified, the mid-40s and early 60s, during which dramatic shifts occur in our molecules and microorganisms. These findings have important implications for understanding and addressing health issues such as cardiovascular disease, kidney function, and immune system aging. By acknowledging these changes, individuals can take actionable steps to improve their health, including exercising more, monitoring kidney function, cutting back on fatty meals, and increasing water intake. Israel stuns by saying United States, United Kingdom, France will assist in offensive strikes on Iran. Israel's Foreign Minister Israel Katz stated that he expects the United States, as well as its allies Britain and France, to assist in offensive operations against Iran if it attacks, citing the need for a unified front against potential aggression. Katz conveyed this message during a meeting with British Foreign Secretary David Lammy and French Foreign Minister Stéphane Séjourné, emphasizing that Israel cannot respond strongly enough to attacks on its territory without international support. The Israeli Foreign Ministry later softened Katz's remarks in an official readout, omitting the sentence about needing to retaliate against Iran. Ukraine destroys key bridge in Kursk region using United States-supplied high-mobility artillery rocket system. Ukraine's forces claim they are making progress into the southern Russian oblast of Kursk, but Russia says it destroyed an entire reconnaissance and sabotage group in western Kursk. Regardless, the biggest development is the destruction of a key Russian bridge on Friday, which was partially damaged earlier in the day before collapsing after being struck by a high-mobility artillery rocket system rocket supplied by the United States Army. The bridge, located nearly 7 miles north of the Ukrainian border, was used as a key supply and logistics route for Russian forces fighting off the cross-border incursion. Hezbollah reveals massive underground missile base. Hezbollah published a new video showcasing its secret underground facility, Imad 4, from which it can launch and store thousands of missiles. The site appears to be located in a mountainous area and features lengthy tunnels and corridors that allow for the movement of large military trucks and missile launch pads. The publication is intended to intimidate Israel as tensions rise between the two countries. Hezbollah claims its capabilities are fully prepared to defend Lebanon against any potential Israeli strikes, and the secrecy of the site makes it immune from preemptive attacks. 21 years after Bush overthrew Saddam, bill in Iraqi parliament could legitimize child marriage. Women's rights organizations in Iraq have expressed outrage over proposed amendments to the Personal Status Law of 1959 that could enshrine sectarianism in family relationships, give clerics more power in family relationships, give clerics more power in family matters, and potentially allow child marriage for girls as young as 9 years old. The amendments, promoted by a coalition of conservative Shia Islamist parties, would require Muslim couples to choose either the Sunni or Shia sect when concluding a marriage contract and allow figures from religious endowments to finalize marriages rather than the courts. Critics argue that the changes would strip away rights gained by Iraqi women in modern times and impose archaic Islamic Sharia law on them. Defense firm unveils Cybertruck for special forces, able to survive improvised explosive devices. A defense company has introduced a complete armor package for the Tesla Cybertruck, which can protect against 14.5mm heavy machine gun rounds, an improvised explosive device, or mine protection. The bolt-on Ultimate Defense upgrade was unveiled by Archimedes Defense and Unplugged Performances UP on Friday. The package is designed for military and defense operations with 3 distinct variants, including the STING APC, which is the most extreme for war zones. The armor package includes a double V hull under the vehicle for added protection. Gold soars to record high. Dollar Dump says Kamala unveils populist economic plan. Kamala Harris unveiled her economic growth agenda, which includes price fixing and vote buying measures, coinciding with the dollar plunging to 5-month lows and gold soaring to a record high of over $2,500. Despite weak housing data and underwhelming earnings reports, the United States markets closed out their best week of the year and seventh consecutive session in the green, with the Nasdaq rallying up to a key technical resistance level and small caps lifted by an ongoing short squeeze. The yield curve flattened significantly on the week, with 2-year and 10-year Treasury yields reinverting, and credit markets rallied hard, adjusting back from hard landing to soft landing scenarios. Kamalanomics blowback begins as food prices hit record highs. Kamala Harris' economic strategy is being criticized as she tries to deflect accountability for the nation's inflation storm and affordability crisis, despite being second in command and previously supporting President Biden's economic policies. Her recent campaign rallies have sparked widespread frustration among Americans who are struggling with inflation fueled by the Biden-Harris administration over the past 3.5 years. The hashtag Kamalanomics is trending, with many pointing out that Harris' plan to introduce communist-style government price controls on grocery stores and food companies was a poor policy choice. Investment analyst Lynn Alden notes that grocery stores have razor-thin profit margins, making it unlikely that they are engaging in corporate price gouging, as Harris's team claim. The crown jewel of American socialism, the Wall Street Journal reported that the millennial generation has experienced a significant increase in wealth, which is good news for proponents of Social Security, as it means there is more wealth to confiscate to support the program. However, Social Security is based on the socialist principle of taking money from one group and giving it to another, rather than being a program where people pay into a system and receive their money back. In reality, tax revenues are spent immediately, and the money that funds Social Security today comes from the children and grandchildren of those who paid taxes in the past. The program depends on the forced collection and redistribution of money by the Internal Revenue Service, which is one of the most tyrannical agencies in United States history. Living standards in grave danger. The Federal Reserve's efforts to prevent economic downturns have led to a buildup of debt and an unstable financial system. The Fed's decision to enter the markets in 2008 and buy up failing mortgage securities, combined with its policy of keeping interest rates low, has caused underlying conditions to worsen and extended the housing bubble into a corporate and financial bubble as well. This has resulted in a situation where the entire nation is living on cheap money, with payrolls and salaries ballooning, but without much public awareness of the decay in capital structures taking place beneath the surface. New research sheds light on mysterious origin of Stonehenge's altar stone. Geologists may have solved the mystery of the origin of the altar stone central to the ancient monument of Stonehenge in England, which is believed to have traveled 600 miles from northern Scotland rather than 150 miles from southwest Wales. According to new research published in the scientific journal Nature, the 6-ton altar stone was likely transported by sea due to its massive size and the difficulty of overland transport. The study suggests that ancient Britons began construction of Stonehenge as early as 3000 BC and continued for 2 millennia, demonstrating a high level of societal organization and intra-Briton transport during the Neolithic period. Margin calls death, divorce, and bankruptcy. Art lending market booms as rich Americans scour for liquidity. The global art market has cooled significantly in a high interest rate environment, with the Fine Arts Index sliding 32% from its peak in mid-2021. As a result, wealthy Americans with fine art collections are turning to alternative methods to unlock liquidity while keeping their valuable artworks on display. Art lending is becoming increasingly popular, with major Wall Street banks growing their efforts by adding staff and marketing the service to new and existing clients. According to Deloitte, outstanding loans against art could surpass $36 billion in 2024, up from $29 billion to $34 billion last year. Wealth advisors are recommending art lending as a more stable option than borrowing against stocks and bonds. with valuations updated just once a year rather than daily stock fluctuations that can result in unexpected margin calls. Trump to be surrounded by bulletproof glass at outdoor events. The United States Secret Service is implementing new security measures for President Donald Trump's outdoor rallies, including surrounding him with bulletproof glass. The glass will be stored in locations around the country and brought to events on trucks and vans. The decision comes after a reported assassination attempt on Trump, who has expressed his desire to resume outdoor campaign events, but only with protective glass in place. Tiny village in Ireland overrun by government relocated migrants. In Ireland, government plans to relocate hundreds of migrants from third world countries into rural areas have raised concerns among locals about the potential for social unrest and cultural disruption. Despite initial assurances that only Ukrainian refugees would be resettled in these areas, it has emerged that many of the migrants are single military-age males from Africa and the Middle East. Protests have erupted in villages like Tipperary, where over 200 migrants are being housed in a hotel, greatly outnumbering the local population. The government's decision to transplant non-Western populations into historically homogeneous rural areas has been met with suspicion and fear among locals, who worry about the potential for crime, violence, and cultural clashes. Judge greenlights lawsuit accusing PepsiCo of deceptively advertising protein bars. A federal judge in the United States District Court of California has ruled that a lawsuit against PepsiCo can proceed, alleging that the company made false claims about the health benefits of its Gatorade protein bars. The plaintiffs, three self-described fitness enthusiasts, claim that PepsiCo's marketing and labeling are deceptive as the bars contain high levels of total and added sugars, exceeding daily limits recommended by the American Heart Association for Women and Youth. The lawsuit alleges that PepsiCo violated multiple federal and state laws, including the California Unfair Competition Law and the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, among others. These were the largest sovereign debt defaults in modern history. In July, Ukraine reached a preliminary agreement with private creditors to avoid defaulting on $20 billion in loans, after suspending interest payments on international debt over the last 2 years, due to the financial burden of war. This new debt restructuring prevents what would have ranked among the 10 largest sovereign debt defaults in recent history, following previous defaults by countries such as Greece, Argentina, and Russia, who defaulted on loans totaling $264 billion, $82 billion, and $72 billion, respectively, between 1990 and 2020. Stabbings to show trials, 9 simple steps to criminalize free speech. The United Kingdom government has implemented a template to crack down on free expression by exploiting violent incidents and using them as a pretext for suppressing dissenting voices. This plan involves seeding misinformation about an incident through anonymous accounts or non-mainstream sources, encouraging disorder through undercover agents, debunking the initial narrative with the real story, blaming social media for amplifying the misinformation, arresting people for online comments deemed unpleasant or stupid, and holding show trials to sentence individuals to prison for posting jokes, or ushin individuals to prison. This template is adaptable and can be reused in various situations to justify suppressing free speech and dissenting voices. Welcome to the Take No Prisoners, End of the Road election. The Democratic Party is in disarray as it prepares for its convention in Chicago, where delegates will either celebrate the nomination of questionable leaders or revolt against the party's evil cabal. The party's legacy includes damage to the nation through lawfare lawlessness, gross mismanagement of public affairs, and destruction of households and communities. Meanwhile, rumors are circulating about deals between Donald Trump and the intelligence community, as well as between Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is running for president. Kennedy has denied these rumors and has spoken out against the Democratic Party's stance on free speech and censorship. The convention promises to be chaotic, with various tribes of protesters planning to demonstrate outside the United Center Arena in Chicago. Appeals court rejects challenge to California's vote-by-mail system. A United States appeals court turned away a challenge to California's vote-by-mail laws, stating that even if some invalid ballots may be counted under the state system, it does not meet the burden to show in-person votes were diluted. The ruling addressed a case filed by the Election Integrity Project, California, and other plaintiffs who appealed a ruling from a district court. To show a violation of due process rights outlined in the United States Constitution's 14th Amendment, one needs to show massive disenfranchisement or complete lack of integrity. Visualizing the cost of insulin in the United States from 2004 to 2024. The cost of insulin in the United States skyrocketed over the past few decades, affecting millions of people with diabetes who rely on it every day. The three major manufacturers in the country, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi, produce insulin, but prices have risen dramatically since 1996. For example, a 10 milliliter vial of Humalog, a rapid-acting insulin produced by Eli Lilly, cost $21.23 when it was introduced in 1996, but the price shot up to $70 over the next decade. By 2016, the cost had increased to $255, a 264% increase from 2006. The production costs of insulin have remained relatively constant, with estimates suggesting that it costs between $2 and $4 to produce 10 milliliters of Humalog. The United States reaches deal to cut prices on 10 medications. The Department of Health and Human Services has successfully negotiated lower prices for 10 expensive and widely used drugs covered under Medicare, which is expected to save the Medicare program $6 billion in the first year and reduce out-of-pocket costs for Medicare beneficiaries by $1.5 billion. The negotiations were made possible thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act, which gave Medicare the power to negotiate prescription drug prices with pharmaceutical companies. The 10 selected drugs, which include blood thinners and diabetes medications, accounted for $56.2 billion in Medicare spending in 2023 alone. Money market fund assets hit record highs. Banks see large deposit outflows as stocks crashed. As stocks continued to decline last week, money market funds experienced significant inflows of $28.4 billion, marking the second consecutive week of substantial growth. This surge in investments pushed total assets under management to a new record high of $6,216 billion. Conversely, United States bank deposits saw a massive drop of $77 billion on a seasonally adjusted basis and $74 billion on a non-seasonally adjusted basis. Large banks suffered significant deposit outflows of $73.5 billion on a seasonally adjusted basis, while small banks experienced modest inflows of $3.5 billion. How the Russia-Ukraine war could go nuclear. By accident, the International Atomic Energy Agency warns that a nuclear tragedy could be dangerously close due to reckless attacks on the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant in Ukraine. The plant, which provides power to 7 countries, has been occupied by Russian forces since the start of the war and has seen 5 of its 6 reactors remain in cold shutdown. Locals and Ukrainian plant workers have reported abuse, unsafe working conditions, and torture by Russian authorities, leading to mounting stress and suffering. The IAEA's Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi urges immediate cessation of attacks, warning that we cannot sit by and watch as the final weight tips the finely balanced scale. Kamala Harris' price control plan would cause a widespread supply chain crisis. The Democratic Party has been denying the effects of inflation since Joe Biden took office in 2021, initially claiming there was no threat and then blaming businesses for price gouging. However, retail prices have risen in direct correlation to production costs, with increases in raw materials, manufacturing, labor, and wages leading to higher prices on the shelf. The establishment media has been promoting this narrative despite it being thoroughly debunked. Kamala Harris's economic policy plan aims to print more money and institute price controls, which would cause immediate damage to the supply chain, lead to shortages, and harm the already strained manufacturing sector. United Kingdom government set to ban silent prayer outside abortion clinics. The United Kingdom government is set to ban silent prayer outside abortion clinics following a review of existing guidance that allowed for silent protest within designated safe access zones. The move comes after campaigner Isabel Vaughn Spruce was arrested in March 2023 for silently praying outside a clinic and later released without charge, sparking international condemnation. Under the proposed changes, anyone found engaging in silent prayer or handing out leaflets near abortion clinics could be prosecuted, effectively criminalizing those who engage in peaceful protest. China coal production hits new all-time high for July. China's coal output rose 2.8% in July from a year earlier as mines ramped up production to ensure steady supply amid record-breaking heat. The world's biggest polluter mined 390 million metric tons of the fuel last month, according to the National Bureau of Statistics data on Thursday. This was down from June's 405 million tons, but still the highest ever for the month of July. China's thermal power generation fell 4.9% in July due to increased hydropower generation caused by heavy rains.